Hey, how goes it? Ken Bozak here to talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin accessories. And today I'm streaming with my bro Robert Janito of wallofcoins.com. How goes it, Rob?
It goes.
Is it
How are
Rob
you?
or Robert? What do you prefer?
I don't care to be honest.
All right, Rob.
Robert
Rob. I'm just
goes
because I'm
Rob.
lazy.
And Bob, I have an emotional problem with Bob that I don't understand. So
How the hell did Rob and Bob? How's Bob short for Robert when Rob was already short for Bob and they're the damn same? Like, it doesn't. It's like Dick and Richard. It never made sense to me, but if I ever found someone Richard in my circle, I'd always call them Dick and be able to get away with it.
yeah, I don't know where it came from. Can't help you
So,
there.
speaking of where it came from, where'd you come from, man? How did you? Why don't you let us, the audience, know a little bit about yourself? Where did you come from, and how maybe you got into crypto and what you're doing now in the industry with wallofcoins.com?
Okay. So I first heard about crypto in late 2010 and started mining in 2011. So early miner. I'm a total early miner person. Spent like 40, more than 40 hours a week obsessing, researching over it. I mean, didn't most of us when we first got out
Rabbit
about it?
holing, yeah.
Became really annoying. Except back then when you were talking about Bitcoin, um, it was a lot harder to describe, and more people thought you were crazy. And
It was
people
like
were
early
like,
days of veganism. Every time I talked to somebody, I felt like one of those vegans talking about like some new world financial diet they got to get on. Like, drop the fiat calories. You got to get in on this Bitcoin trans fat thing.
and even though I didn't do this, it's sort of like the gold person like bragging about gold, and but you're the Bitcoin guy that's like, screw gold, we got Bitcoin. Not that I'm saying screw gold, but maybe that vegan mentality of, hey, you gotta get onto this.
Right.
But back then, yeah, so I mined. I'm pretty open with saying I've just been so obsessed with the problem with adoption. I've been through two divorces in that time,
Wow.
so apparently I'm married to this industry instead, right? So um, there came a point between ran different companies in the space, like HashingPlex was one that I'll admit was making fun of Hashplex pre-orders and everybody pre-ordering this and pre-ordering that and scammers left and right. So Wall of Coins was birthed out of the idea that here's something called over-the-counter Bitcoin trading, like in the IRC chat room. It works great, but there's a little bit of labor trust. And hey, there's Craigslist where people are letting people know that they have Bitcoin to sell. There's local Bitcoins that was new at the time. There's just a huge problem with scammers, and there's a huge problem with people who wanted to get into Bitcoin and they didn't know where to go, where to start. They didn't have somebody that they trusted to help them with it. So because of this problem, Wall of Coins came about to solve that. Say like, okay, look, we're going to give you a consistent experience, somebody you trust. We'll talk with us over the phone. We're not trying to be anonymous. We'll talk with you and help you. We'll walk your hand through this process, and to help this become much easier for people to get into crypto.
That's what's up, man. That's what people really need right now. Is sort of like a hand-holding experience. Because even sending a dollar transaction on Bitcoin can be a little bit scary or kind of emotional. Because not just like doing things you're outside of your comfort zone, but outside of your knowledge zone. Where people don't like to feel dumb. They don't want to learn things unnecessarily just to feel stupid. And like dealing with this can make you it can be intimidating, right? Like just private keys, public keys, SHA-256, mining, encryption, all this. It can be kind of a turnoff to people that aren't intellectually inclined to kind of feel like they could do it on their own. So have a hand-holding experience is important. And I feel like now the problem we have, like we didn't, then there was too few and too far on ramps is we have a surplus of buy Bitcoin here or sell Bitcoin here kind of a phenomenon happening ever since Coinbase kind of set the monopoly. It's not so much a monopoly anymore.
Yeah, or at least they did a good job of convincing people that they had a monopoly. Well, we have this same problem exists in traditional finances. When people send a wire transfer for the first time, it's a scary experience for them, but they have a, well, not for everybody, it's a scary experience, but they have the banker there who's dressed nicely and everything who can help them. And even when I don't know if you remember this, but I remember writing my first check, and that was a scary experience to me. My mother was showing me like, here, you write the name of who it's to, you put what it's
I
for.
got to admit it right now. I've never written a check in my life. my
Good for you.
life. Never written a check. I
Yeah,
don't
good
know.
for
I've
you.
gotten like money orders and shit, but I don't. I think I had a bank account for like show, and then I just closed it. Never really used my bank too much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so people who are listening who have written the check thing, it's scary at first. So Bitcoin could be even scarier when you are already used to some sort of method. I mean, how many times have you sent a transaction to somebody where they wanted a test transaction first?
Yes. Yeah, I've
You
had that
have.
even with like PayPal and shit like that, where people are like, just send me $1. I want to make sure there's no issues. And I'm like, but it's gonna cost me fucking 30 cents to send this test.
Yeah, like the first transaction I received was like, I think it was half a Bitcoin or something like that. And I remember like the dude's like, here, I'll test sending some to you. But he sent me a lot less at first. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's the way to go about it. So, like, what are your thoughts on then the like early friction on ramp experience, then to the sort of I feel like the new era friction experience we have now, like it is a totally different hardship. Like there used to just be hard finding those people that you could, sort of trust through digital reputation on Craigslist or through local bitcoins and things like that to now I feel like the newer hardship is sort of like the KYC where everybody if you're trying to get into this, you have to kind of submit this KYC now and they're starting to sort of try to, regulate or legitimize Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. What are your thoughts on like the new frictions opposed to the older ones that we used to see, where it was just a little harder to get, you know?
well, you know what? I'm curious, what old frictions still don't exist today?
Well, I mean, well, with providers like Coinbase or third-party exchanges like what is it, Simplex, they're incorporated into a lot of wallets now. It just appears that it's easier to find ways to exchange fiat into crypto. The earlier
Yeah.
days were saying, before like Coinbase and things like that, it was much more peer to peer. You would have to set up the wallet yourself. We didn't always have like things like Jack's Wallet or Edge Wallet. They had to come about. So the earlier hardships were just basically becoming smart enough or trusting somebody that was smart enough to set all this up for
Yeah.
you. Now
Yeah.
we can get all these things easier. Open your phone to the nearest Play Store or App Store. You get a plethora of, trusted, digitally reputable, trusted, software wallets, cold storage, hot wallets. But
Yeah.
I feel like that new because of all these, we've created a third party echo chamber, right? Like before we didn't have this red velvet roped line that you had to wait in Coinbase, to get verified. You would just go to local Bitcoins and buy some. But,
Yeah.
like I said, this KYC friction is sort of what I'm saying is new. And even just like worrying about the taxes so much, before we even have concrete laws on the taxes.
Yeah. But I agree. I agree. So in the KYC world, I think it's funny because when you talk directly to regulators, like I've talked directly with different well, especially thinking about an individual from the IRS that I talked directly to. He came here, we talked. They really don't want to tell you what when you don't have to collect that information. But when you are a system like Coinbase, right, and you cater only to people who are credit privileged or have banking in the first place, which is you're skipping out on 33% of the United
Yep.
States. Uh, the only reason they have this KYC in the first place is because they have to battle with fraud. They have to deal with fraud. So if you're acquiring Bitcoin in the world of the credit card world, right? There's problems, and I really don't believe that people with credit cards and stuff are people who really want to use Bitcoin anyways. I think they're speculators. They already have access to banking. They already have Bitcoin Dash.
Right.
Or sorry, they don't have Bitcoin or Dash or Ethereum, but their system works. And I think it's important that we admit that you know what, my bank works. Like when Bitcoin's fee was super high, I was like, I may as well send a wire transfer. Like,
Right. Well, I mean, if you can, right? Like you said, if you already have access to that, financial institution and it's working, why? Like that's like getting in the lifeboat before the ship starts sinking, using Bitcoin. If you have something that already works, but if
or
you're
you're like you and me, and you're begging them to accept Dash or something. Like, look, Bitcoin fees very high. I mean, I'm glad that's under control now.
Yeah, yeah, and well, I think even Western Union's starting to look towards cryptocurrencies for wire transfer purposes is pretty cool, and the legacy systems on ramping hardcore, but I feel like those traditional companies that we've had, like local Bitcoins, they went mandatory KYC. Shapeshift, they went mandatory KYC. It's just That's what's really starting to worry me is this whole new centralization of a decentralized technology. It's just a giant step backwards with a really great technology. It doesn't make much sense. It's like trying to use a chainsaw with your feet. It's just a great tool, wrong way to use it, but
Yeah.
what can we do? I just see that we're gonna see like you said, the people that can go through those ramps don't really need to use the currency as much. So the people that do need it, those on ramps, those decentralized on ramps, they're gonna probably have more incentive to exist than the regulated ones. But that's where we're seeing everything turn to. Even Coinbase with their Coinbase Pro, they're appealing more to the institutional investors and brokers with Coinbase Pro. I think it's like $100,000 just to sign up, $1 million minimum tradings, and what is that? Shapeshift even started to go like legacy investing route instead of the retail investing route. I feel like we're starting to get left behind.
With retail, you bring up a huge, great point with retail. At retail, people are paying with cash many of the times, right? Or not many of the times today, but people can pay with cash. Retail is super familiar with the cash world,
Right.
So in retail, in retail, you typically don't have to give information of who you are. But last I checked, in Florida, if you're doing a retail purchase of $3,000 or more in cash, you do have to give information to your merchant.
That's fucking weird.
Yeah. So, for example, let's say you go to the Apple store to buy the gold Apple Watch, and I don't have one. I'm just pointing at my wrist. Go to buy the gold Apple Watch. You go to buy it with cash. They need to see your ID and collect information about you, and people don't think about this. So, and Wall of Coins is what's giving people a retail experience where, I mean, you're coming to buy $300 worth of Bitcoin or something like that. You're paying $300. It's very much a retail experience. You don't need, and I'll say this totally on air and live, you don't need to, I mean, maybe for man in the middle attacks, yes, but there's a certain threshold for that. You generally don't need to collect ID for a $20 purchase, a $10 purchase, a $100 purchase. And that's why people don't do that in the cash world. It's the same problems. But a big issue with friction that people just need to wake up to is how many steps it takes to make that purchase. For example,
Yep.
you download the Dash wallet or you download the Bitcoin wallet. You're downloading it like, cool, I heard about Bitcoin, I heard about Dash, I want to get this item, I want to check it out. So it's like you download the wallet and then you're like, cool, what can I do with it? Absolutely nothing, because you don't have anything.
Right.
And you go, oh, let me try this buy Bitcoin option. You end up getting redirected to different areas. You end up getting, you have to sign up in this other account. You have to create a profile. You're not even in your wallet anymore, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. You finally when you finally do get to make payment 3 to 4 days later, it's a different story. So, I mean, we're very familiar with this problem, and we pitched to many wallets in the past who said it would never work. We're pitching to wallets today saying, implement our API. We have the tools for you. It's a 4-step process for somebody to get crypto. And then that's where adoption happens, when people can actually get into it, get paid by it, etc. Not
Right.
this big long process.
Yeah, no, there is such a process. I remember when I started to get my friends into crypto. This is like 2016, 2017, and they're messaging me in a panic because they're saying, Coinbase isn't giving me my Bitcoin. It says it's pending 7 days. I hate Bitcoin. Coinbase sucks. And I was like, well, wait. That 7-day pending thing, that's your bank's problem. It's going to take your bank 7 whole fucking days just to get Coinbase the money you sent Coinbase so they can give you the Bitcoin that you bought. Otherwise, if they gave you that Bitcoin and you were to say send it off or spend it or trade it, and then decide to call your bank or credit card company and say, hey, that wasn't me that made that transaction, get me my money back, Coinbase would be out the Bitcoin and the fiat that they never got because it was taking 7 days to get there. So it was a really like that cumbersome experience was actually like a great highlight for the failures of the legacy system on ramping into Bitcoin. But I feel like that's one of the biggest friction problems, and the banks don't want to decrease that in any way. They don't want to make it easier for you to get out of their system and into a whole other, economic economy of cryptocurrencies.
I'm a big fan of the truth, and a lot of people really aren't because it's a very emotional experience. But the truth is, the banking system that we have today, that we work with, or that we have in the United States, uh, it's an illusion. It's a lie. You send money to somebody, or you do a bank-to-bank transfer, and the bank tells you it's there, cool, everything's done, and that's not the truth. Everything is not done. So people have these very unrealistic expectations. Oh, so what? Not much to really battle that, other than cut away a lot of the friction. For example, there's no reason why Coinbase can't be, or any other provider can't be upfront and say, this could take you 7 days to get.
Right.
If you want to do this quicker, pay with cash at a payment destination or something like that. So the people are used to this illusion where they deposit a check, their bank tells them the cash is there, and then this is where people get in trouble, where they go, cool, I was paid with cash. I can trust who paid me entirely because I'm trusting this bank here. And the bank's like, oh no, we have all these stipulations.
And the banks have these funny little loopholes to screw you over. I remember when I first got my first bank account, this is why I stopped using it after a very short time, very early on, because I didn't really have like that financial education from like my parents, and it was kind of like the bird kicked out of the nest, sort of like, here, go learn. And I did. I just went out and learned. I got a bank account. I started getting my paychecks deposited, and I didn't know at the time that it took 3 days for your spending transactions to actually come out of your bank account's like balance. So I would be, 18 or maybe even younger, I think, because I was emancipated at like 15, so I think I got a bank account a little earlier than most. But I remember looking at my account and I was like, oh, I have money, and I would spend money. And then like a week later, I would get my statement and I'd be negative $200. I was like, how the hell did I spend money I didn't have? How do you spend money that isn't there? But when I looked 3 days ago, it was there. And then, everybody's trying to laugh and be like, well, you didn't know it takes 3 days for transactions to clear? I'm like, no, nobody told me this. The bank didn't tell me this. And I sat down for 4 hours with them. All they told me was I need to keep $100 in my savings account at all times, or it's a $35 fee and it adds up. And I'm like, well, can I just give you $100? You put it in your register and I'll never touch it. They don't want that. They want you to touch it so they can screw you with the fees, knowing damn well if you don't have the 100, how do you have the 35 for the fee?
So I understand, both sides of that. A, they're screwing me, and hey, well, this is a business, we have to make some money. But it's very true. It's a very dishonest system. And what's great about, you see, okay, so my understanding of you is that you're very happily unbanked.
Yes.
And you use crypto. And there are very few people who have done that, and especially people, well, not very few, but people in the banking world, CEOs of many of these, companies, like Eric Voorhees. Does Eric Voorhees have a bank account? Yeah. Do I have a bank account? Yeah. How many leaders in the space have gone without a bank account? I went without a bank account for 9 months, and that was a pretty kick-ass experience, to be honest. I got back into it because like there are in the United States, there are many not facilities, what's the word? There's many pros, but when you see a life of living just on cryptocurrency, this is what Bitcoin has done. It has shown people something that's very honest. Like there's money in there or there's not. You make a payment or you don't. It has simplified things. There's not this there's not this illusion that's in place, and the illusion is only in place because the money system, let's say the money system of 20 years ago, right? Pretty much the same as today. The money system was the best thing. It was the best technology. It had a lot of problems though. So a lot of these banks had to solve these problems. A lot of these, not just banks, Western Union, MoneyGram, et cetera, they made a business out of solving these problems. And today, their business just clearly sucks compared to the alternative.
Well, that's like the more their business sucks, the more money they make because the solution to the problem they cause is profitable. The
Yeah,
debt-based incentive is insanity. It's just, and talk about the money they make. They make money taking my money and lending people my money while giving me nothing for it, while charging me to keep my money in their account so they can charge you to borrow it. They're making money hand over fist. And I think one of the things that really turned me on to crypto when I first started to get interested in it was it's a push transaction, not a pull transaction. So like this was back when like
must be fun too.
Home Depot and everybody got hacked by the hackers and their credit card information was stolen, and I was just sitting there kind of looking into Bitcoin around 2016, early 2016 when this happened, and I was like, wait, if I were to pay somebody with Bitcoin, they can't pull any crypto out of my wallet no matter what. There's no way. I mean, yeah, they got my private key, but that's every time you use your Visa card, you're basically exposing your private key to every business ever. So, yeah, I don't see the sense in using this currency anymore. This fiat thing is just, it's barbaric. But then you see the debt incentive for the way the institutions are run, and you're just like, well, it'll never get any better because they're not incentivized to make it any better. The more debt they cause, if the credit card fraud's one of their biggest lucrative things, they're like, people are like, oh, don't worry, it's insured by you. You're the one paying the insurance for when their security measures fail you. It's not their money fixing the problem, it's your own money. So they just, as long as it's profitable, it will forever be. So I don't think they have what it takes to evolve. I think they're going to have that blockbuster extinction, kind of period where it's like, hey man, you remember banks? Like, yeah, wasn't that stupid? It was like going to the store for VHS tapes. Like fiat bills will feel as relevant as a VHS cassette in 5 years.
I hear there's one Blockbuster still around in the United States.
Get the hell out of here. I'm about to make a road trip. That's retro.
Yeah, something to Google later, or somebody to.
If they still have VHS, then they're doing it right. That's all I can say.
Oh man, but when you mentioned about the debt-based incentive, that debt really requires trust, and trust is not something that you can put on a piece of paper. Trust is somebody else's free will, and then you willingly choosing to get in that contract with them, right? So trust is a huge problem. It's a massively large problem, and so if you're going to run a debt-based, whatever world to stand for your form of money or your value, you have to have a high trust world. Because those are the only two things that are even valuable or rare, or what is it, like you may say your world is those are the only things that are limited really in this universe is what somebody will do with their free will matching your free will. So this whole debt-based system, of course it's not going to work.
Well, yeah, people are losing trust, and the fact that they can't verify their currency's value, it's starting to worry them. People are starting to consider the supply ratio of a $20 bill. How many $20 bills are in supply right now? How many of them exist? Because I have a couple of these $20 bills, and I don't know what they're worth because I don't know how many of them there are to know how many of them I have out of the whole supply to get an idea of it. All I can do is believe in its value and hope that people trust in that belief with me. And it's starting to break. People want more evidence to the currencies they're using. They want to know when they go to get eggs, bread, gas, and milk, why is it costing more of my currency today than it did yesterday? And people do talk about Bitcoin and these cryptos being volatile. But it's been, if you zoomed out, it's been volatile in an upwards trajectory since its inception. But if you look at the fiat currency conception, it's been going in a downward trajectory volatility since its creation.
That's because I don't think any, I shouldn't say it like that, but when it comes to Bitcoin or Dash or et cetera, I don't think it's volatile at all. It tells you how many are going to be printed every few minutes, every 10 minutes. The thing that is volatile in the first place is people's trust, which is like, let's say the US dollar, the national currency. That's the that's the volatile item, but that's really hard for people to see and understand.
I think that's what hurts Bitcoin the most, is that we even allow it to be paired to the US dollar, which is completely unfair to Bitcoin as its proof of work, as the fiat dollar's proof of imagination. You know, it's not fair to think that, you know, the powers that be could just hit enter, print trillions of dollars to buy Bitcoin with, when miners have to actually put effort into, you know, producing these Bitcoin. I feel like, you know, if...
Well, let me ask, if I may, I don't mean to cut in, but may I ask, people who are concerned with volatility and they're concerned with having a national currency, they're not people that are going to want to get into crypto yet anyways. So so these people, you want to find people who do understand these problems or are having a problem with their national currency anyways, such as in Venezuela. Or people who are looking at a better way to store their value. These are the people where adoption is going to come from, not people who already believe in that illusion, who have the privilege of having all these banking options. They're happy. They're happy. They don't, you know, they don't understand. Like, I mean, this volatility ultimately comes from these national currencies anyways, and that's where trust comes in. That's where, okay, the only thing that's limited in this universe is that individual's time and attention, and the individual's ability to fulfill their social contracts, or they're going to give the debt. That's the human world that we want to get away from. When it comes to money, we can trust things. We can have better trust for something that is a little automated, etc. But coming back to adoption, right? Coming back to adoption.
Yeah. So how do we get those people?
We can't waste our time on
yeah.
People
how do we get those people that are, you know, maybe in a position to where they have a risk reward balance to start a chance to do a trust fall, if you will, into this new currency, like in Venezuela and other countries? How do we get them on ramped? How does adoption even start for these people that, you know, to buy Bitcoin, you need fiat, right? So how do they, if they don't have a bank, how do they get Bitcoin? How do we get them on ramped?
Okay, well, so exactly. I'll answer that for you. Let me tell you, when the Federal Reserve first came in with their printed notes, which was amazing. You know, one, you had legally that could absolve debt, and two, how did that money get out there? Just hired people to do meaningless jobs. Go sweep the side of the road, right? So just give people that currency, right? Like as a gift? No, make them do some work, and that's exactly where Bitcoin started. Hey, do some work. We'll give you some of these units. It didn't matter that it was worth anything. Just like, you know, about 100 years ago, it didn't matter what work people did. Here you go, you get US dollars, etc. So today, here's what I did. Did continue to do, but about 4 years ago, I was like on a campaign to do this. I was eating out every day. I was eating out like twice to 3 times a day. Gained a lot of weight, but what I decided to do was to always tip people in Bitcoin. Always tip them in Bitcoin. So, so for example, if I were at like, you know, a bar back then, or eating breakfast, I would tell them up front. I would say, and I really encourage everyone to do this. You want adoption? Everybody can make this happen easily. People who are already in Bitcoin. You tell your server, your waitress, etc. You say, hey, heads up, I only tip in Bitcoin. It's not an unkind thing to do. A tip is a gift. I tip in Bitcoin. Do you have a Bitcoin wallet? Do you have a Dash wallet? No, I don't have a wallet. Okay, well, you know, when you go to the bathroom or something, you're back there. Go to your app store, search for Dash wallet, and download Dash, and I'll tip you with Dash. That's my means of tipping, right?
No, I dig that. I actually did kind of the same thing, except I ran out to strip clubs and stuff like that during the bull run and decided to tip in crypto. Needless to mention, thanks to the bear market, I can't go to the same strip clubs anymore. But no, I used to tip in cryptocurrencies as well, you know, bars, restaurants, and it wasn't.
A lot of people are afraid to do that. They're afraid that they're going to offend the other person, but they have to realize the truth is, no, that's a gift. You're not obligated to do any of these tips. And through all my time tipping people this way, I've tipped a lot of people this way. I don't even know how many. I do know that in 1 month, I tipped like almost 60 people. I've only had 2 people like basically be like, no, hell no, I'm not going to do that. One person said the usual, oh, my phone died, so I can't download. I'm like, sure, your phone died. Everybody says that. but no, her phone did die. And when I was at that restaurant again, she remembered me. She was like,
Have
"Hey,
you
you're
ever
the guy that wanted to pay me."
have you ever thought
Yeah,
about carrying like a paper wallet with you to leave for tips? Because I've started to
yeah.
think about it because there's actually a Bitcoin ATM 1 block away at a 7-Eleven. Like inside 7-Eleven, there's a Bitcoin ATM machine. So I was like, I could just get a couple $5, $10 paper wallets out of the ATM and just like leave them as tips, but then I get worried that they might think it's like an old Walmart receipt and throw it away.
Yeah, so I've thought about it many years, and I've never done it. I don't think it will help because when people have Bitcoin in their wallet, they're either going to forget about it because they haven't found any means or context to use it, or they're like, you know what, this is a $20 tip. I want that $20. Like, so they perform just a little bit of work. Go to Google and find out how can I use that? How can I spend it? They find out ultimately they're going to find out more about Bitcoin.
I show a lot of people that I tip with crypto the bit refill.
Yeah,
They recently just added Netflix, so it's pretty cool because
nice.
about a month ago or so, around Valentine's Day, they added Tinder. So you could use Bitcoin to pay for Tinder, and now they just added Netflix. So it's like I see what they're doing at Bit Refill with this whole Netflix and chill with crypto thing.
Eventually, they're going to add everything
Oh, there's so much
until
Starbucks, Uber Eats. It's like if that's I'm just saying that's one way to add to the pitch when you're tipping in crypto is like let the waitress know this Bitcoin could pay your Netflix, just use Bit Refill and just show them that one step that oh, I can convert this Bitcoin into Netflix paid. That's one step, and it's getting a lot more convenient to show people how to actually use the crypto that we gift them.
yeah. Well, so people who are getting crypto for the first time and they hear about these things, they're still going to think about the context of their own money system that they use. For example, when I first heard about Bitcoin, I was very frank with the person who was telling me about it. I said, "Why wouldn't you just use PayPal?" And instead of them kicking my ass or something like that, they said, "Oh well, you would only say that because you don't get it yet. So, keep listening, keep your mind open." I was like,
Right.
"Oh, I don't get it." I was kind of like, "No, I think I'm pretty sure I get this. Like, I use PayPal, it works."
Well,
But so
even PayPal went mandatory KYC. It's like everybody's doing this KYC thing now, but
yeah,
it's hurting their bottom line and customer use because the people that couldn't go through those means of KYC transactions, they would
yeah,
seek out things like PayPal. So when somebody says why not use PayPal, they might go, "Well, I can't. PayPal doesn't want my business, so I have to use this other means."
yeah. So this is what's important for people to understand this context is, they're going to have these ideas like, so when you give someone Bitcoin for the first time, you must tell them, to the newbie, paying for something with Bitcoin and paying for something with a credit card is the same thing, but why would I go that extra mile to work with Bitcoin anyways? We have to share the value of that to them and say, hey, a lot of services that you buy with Bitcoin, your value goes further. Like they'll give you
Yes.
discounts because they
Yep.
don't have to worry about whether or not your payment's going to come back. You don't have to worry about online fraud because in the USA, it's not great for the security. So we have to let people know that first get into Bitcoin, we have to let them know why it's a better alternative, not by lecturing them, but telling them, hey, check this out. You have Bitcoin and this gift card service, well, when Gift did this, which is
Right.
great, they're going to automatically give you some cash back. So by using Bitcoin, your value is amplified.
Yeah, have you ever used Purse.io?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saved
I have. Love it.
30% because I use Bitcoin. And I think Dash with Bit Refill and you use Dash, you get like 10% off. So you could save 10% on your Netflix or Uber Eats for using Dash because there
Yeah.
are incentives for using these currencies because they're more desired than the traditional means of payments, because of all those problems it has. Fiat actually may be worth less to a business because of all the fees they have to pay for just to receive a dollar, and the risk that they have to go through. If you do a chargeback, some merchant services will charge a business $35 for each individual chargeback. If you're only doing $10 transactions and somebody's doing chargebacks, this is costing you money now. So that risk reward to get rid of that problem and use a cryptocurrency, it saves the business exponential business revenue just because they don't have to price in this whole problem with accepting money to begin with.
Yeah. And that's where Let's throw out some analogies there where you really need to inform people why something is useful. Why is this useful, right? And why is this novel? Same problem happened with the early internet days. People didn't get, well, why is that better than what I have now? Well, it's better because you don't have to put a stamp on the letter. You don't have to send it out to them. You can communicate faster. You have access to information. Back then, it wasn't all the information in the world like we have today, but you had quicker access to information before you go to the library. All right, so people didn't get that. But then when people started getting the internet, it made sense. They had to know why it was useful. And then that happened with digital downloads. With digital downloads, it's like, well, dude, why would I want a compressed file? That's what the audio file would say. Why would I want a compressed file, man? Are you crazy? Well, this, you don't even have to be at the store. You have access to it all the time. Much easier access. You lose your CD, you're screwed. Right? Same thing with all this. Internet amplified our access to knowledge. Digitized like music and stuff just amplified our access to these things and to manifest them and listen to what we want. Well, now that, even computers. Why is this computer useful? Dude, because it's going to amplify your brain. It's going to amplify your talents. You're going to be able to do a lot more talent-wise and work-wise doing this. And then we get to cryptocurrency. Why do I want to use this? Dude, it's going to amplify your value. Don't you want your value amplified? Because aren't you working like crazy so you can make more money and all this stuff that's like doesn't matter? Like, well, this should matter to you.
Well, we've been talking a lot about why it matters to, I guess, the customers and individual end users. But if you want, let's touch on like the merchant and supply chain side of things where, they could utilize this for microtransactions or payments all around the world to where now you have a small business that has the power of large corporations to do remittance in China without having to worry about any third-party bank telling you that you don't have approval to wire the funds overseas to receive your supplies. You can just send somebody some Bitcoin in China and they'll mail you your supplies. There are third-party escrow services and things of like smart contract in nature for this, but I mean, as far as it goes for like merchants, this is pretty powerful, and I think it starts with the suppliers and the merchants. Like you were saying, we have to start, like, I love your idea on the whole keep it proof of work. It starts with proof of work with mining. Don't just give away Bitcoin, make people work for it. Proof of fucking work. I love that. It's beautiful. Like, make people work for their Bitcoin and pay them for it. So, like, with that in mind, like, I feel like it's really in the merchant's power to start pressuring the suppliers in the supply chain to accept it, and then they'll be incentivized to start paying their employees who are customers in the end.
Good. The like on the merchant side,
right, like how do we get the merchants on ramped?
Well, let it be known that we're all we're in a global world right now. We're not stuck too much in our bubbles, except for people that are watching Fox News and stuff all the time. Or people that insist on Googling to find answers, they're still in a bubble. But we're living in a global world. So when it comes to businesses who can make use of this the best, there's a lot of it. I'm going to be frank. There's a lot of infrastructure in place that they still need to do business and to do this. Services aren't going to help. It's the infrastructure. But let me tell you a story where when it comes to how we're global now, businesses, maybe working with other other developers or other people at a distance, like we are talking at a distance, and they'll go to pay them. So, one developer that our company had paid who had a very specialized set of knowledge, we worked with him. I think it was the Ukraine he was from, but we would pay him all the time. And our bank suddenly was like, hey, hold on a second, you're sending wires to this guy. He didn't want to accept, Bitcoin at that time. And this was long ago. And the bank was like, hey, basically there was a problem. And that problem was the bank was afraid that we might be supporting the war in Crimea or something like that. Or I don't remember what it is. So we had to write a little note about this. Just to get an idea. So merchants, businesses, when they're accepting these payments, they don't have to. We have to. It's difficult to talk with the businesses because the businesses have to think of things like what is their accountant going to do? Holy crap! I'm my own bank suddenly. How do you be your own bank?
Right.
You have the cannabis industry, or in the past at least, I don't know about now. Cannabis industry ran into that problem. Cool. How do I be my own bank? Oh, when I pay my taxes, suddenly there's a huge tax on the fact that I'm paying in cash. So businesses, the honest truth is, we all have a lot more work to do to make this easier on businesses because they don't know how to be their own bank.
Right.
They don't know what they have a POS system that is like their brain that they trust entirely, and they can't introduce a new POS system. They're married to that. But the value is where it comes from. Businesses, all they care about, sure, the transaction value is important to them, but they want new customers. They want that customer to make a habit out of buying from them, right? So businesses need to understand that when they are accepting cryptocurrency, is it going to be worth the competitive advantage they have over the other guys to get more customers? Because that's the hardest part in a business. The sale is hard, but the first sale is always the hardest sale. After that, what becomes important is having them establish that habit, such as with coffee shops. If you're a coffee shop and you get somebody new into your shop to get some coffee, that's gonna become their habit. It's gonna become part of what they do that makes them happy. So as far as a business, businesses that are giving merchant solutions or et cetera, they have to communicate, why is this useful? Like, dude, you're going to get a competitive advantage. It doesn't mean you're going to be getting crypto payments all the time. You're going to get the competitive advantage. You're going to get new users. You're not going to have to deal with banking problems. Ring it up as cash in your point of sale system. You don't need all these complex solutions. And this is super helpful. And I've gotten, one Bitcoin meetup I went to in Tampa. I finally couldn't be quiet about it. I was like, this place doesn't accept crypto. Like, why don't you guys talk with them about accepting it? They're like, oh,
The meetup venue didn't accept Bitcoin? Yeah, I would probably have to say something.
So I went to the manager and I said, hey, there's people here that are only here because they're here to talk about a different payment system that you can accept from them. And so I said to them, I said, look, let me show you real quick how to just accept Bitcoin from everybody here. And if it makes you feel better, I'll settle up with you at the end of the night and I'll give you cash. I promise you, right? So most businesses are gonna be like, hell no, I don't know who you are, but this manager lady decided to do that. And so I told her, I said, okay, so for the receipt that people pay with Bitcoin, right? She downloaded a wallet. I said, for the receipt, write on top of the receipt Bitcoin and put it in your drawer. That way, when you reconcile, sort of like with credit cards or something, you see that you're missing cash because some of it was.
Same thing with accepting a check. You just write down other, if somebody paid in a check, you would write on the receipt so you had something to go back to as a reference.
Yeah. So there's an example where if you're doing a Bitcoin meetup, and anybody doing a Bitcoin meetup, that venue loves the fact that you're bringing people there. So it's completely appropriate to tell them, accept crypto for my people.
Right. And I mean, it's, especially during the bull run, it was sort of free marketing.
You have to explain to the business how to do it.
Right.
You have to at least explain it.
I think one of the easier pitches too is also being part of that community, right? It's a marketing or brand awareness thing. Like if people open up their Bitcoin app or say, where can I use Bitcoin? If you're one of the only businesses in your area, you're going to be on the radar all the time. And it's still so early. A lot of companies are still looking at it as sort of just like a marketing gimmick just to get on the radar of people. Because when Diner Club card first came out and credit cards first came out, it was people that had money to spend. That's why businesses were incentivized to accept Diner Club and American Express and Visa, because the people that used that form of transaction had money. That was customers. People that have Bitcoin are typically people that have spare income. They have money. That's why they're dabbling in this speculative currency. So for a business, it's sort of looking at that whole paradigm again that, well, if I was the first business to accept Visa when Visa first came out and people didn't have cash in their pocket as much as they had these cards, people would come to my business more frequently. Same aspect, to the concept of accepting crypto so early is people have it and they want to use it. I have Bitcoin and I want to spend it on coffee or pizza. So if a shop accepts it, I may go a block or two out of the way because I can use my chosen preferred currency. If it was, American Express or crypto, same difference. It's what I want to use and they're accepting it. So by not accepting this as a merchant, they're kind of losing out on a whole new customer base of, people that have money that want to spend it.
So you and I, when we go to discover-.com, we're in a new city, go to Discover Dash, find the places that accept Dash. it's also really important for the person who's paying in Dash, um, to let them know, I found you from Discover Dash.
True.
I didn't go to the other options specifically because you accepted Dash. It's really important for us as purchasers to let them know that. Now, granted, most case scenarios, you're going to be talking with just the cashier. You won't be talking with the people who need to know about it. You might say, hey, tell your boss, we just have to, we have to insist that, like, hey, this is really useful. So this can simplify all of our lives greatly, just like the internet simplified our access to information, and then sort of like okay, other examples. You fill out the other examples. We have to support each other. We have to be not like so much judgmental, but very encouraging for that.
Right. No, it is. It's we have to be a vocal community and not be embarrassed. That's the real thing, is like when you walk into an establishment, you kind of might feel a little embarrassed because this is nerd money. You're kind of like walking into a corner store and be like, hey, do you have a Magic the Gathering or Pokemon cards? Like, it kind of feels nerdy, right? Like when you're at a restaurant and you're like, do you have a vegan only menu? It's like, do you accept Bitcoin? It's like, it's sort of embarrassing, but you're right. It's what we have to do. It's one of the very small roles that we could all play that if we did individually would have a larger impact. Just by using a small voice would give a larger sound.
Yeah. So anybody watching this, if you're afraid to ask or even bring it up, that's an emotional thing. It's a fear. Like, fears, don't be full of fear. Just experiment, ask people, do you accept this? Will you accept this?
I posted a video on Twitter of me walking up to the currency exchange in Hong Kong. Where did you
walk up to?
There was a currency exchange in Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah. And I love trolling them.
I walked up and I was like, do you accept Bitcoin? And they were like, no coins. And I was like, it was worth a shot. Yeah. But I posted the video and everyone was like, this is awesome. I was like, well, it's kind of like, I do that. Everywhere I go, I constantly kind of like, as a joke, ask if they accept Bitcoin. And I'm used to the cold shoulder, but every once in a while, you'll get a cashier that's like, I wish, and you're just like, oh, well, I just made a new friend.
Well, at the same time too, let's say you're a liquidity provider. Let's say you're somebody who's on local Bitcoins, or you're on wallofcoins.com or wherever, and you're reselling coins, right? And you're looking for ways to get more coins. Or let's say you're somebody who, like, you know what, I want to get 40 grand Bitcoin or something. You don't have to go to a big exchange. You don't have to go to Gemini.com to get that. Why not? Just go to your local Lamborghini dealership. Well, not that you do that. Go to your car dealership and say, hey, if you have anybody that wants to pay in Bitcoin, like, here's my card. Call me. I'll give you cash for it. There's tons of creative ways that we can.
That is really creative.
Well, not only are there many ways that we can promote adoption, but by us just promoting that and talking about it, now you have, maybe you talk with the manager at a Toyota car dealership or whatever. Now they're thinking about that, and you must explain to them, like, this would be really useful. You don't have to worry about any banking problems or whatever. If somebody tells you they want to pay with crypto, I'll come with the cash. You tell me how much, or I'll come, I'll sign that I will send the wire transfer to you. And then I'll show you how to get the wallet. I want that Bitcoin. Well, wait, why do you want it so bad? Like, dude, hold on, this guy wants to give us, this guy wants to give us the initial payment of $8,000 for a car, or the initial payment of $2,000. This guy wants to put $2,000 down because he values that car. And now you want to put $2,000 down just to get that Dash. They're gonna be curious. Like, you're obviously not a moron. You're obviously not dumb. This is obviously some value that we're not getting.
Well, what we're kind of touching on is, I guess, like, mainstreaming all this, right? Like, from the frictions to the adoption begets mainstream. And I feel like what might hold back a lot of that, all of what we've been talking about, is the real hurdle to mainstreaming this currency is the regulations. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I grew up, I just read an article that they're making a law that you have to accept cash. So some businesses, it was becoming so cost ineffective to accept cash for, cash drops or going to the bank and, dropping the cash, or maybe the business didn't want to accept cash because they had employees stealing cash problem. Who knows? But now they're enforcing that they have to accept cash. And I was wondering, like, how do we mainstream this if regulation goes against it and says that you're not even legally allowed to accept Bitcoin at a merchant, for a business, because that is something that can be implemented. It's not outside of their power to say that Bitcoin is an illegal currency. You're not allowed to accept it at any business. So now when we do go to that Toyota dealership and we're saying I'll buy it, sounds like we're trying to buy heroin. You're like, oh, if somebody wants to come buy a car with 2 kilos of dope, call me, I'll buy the dope and I'll give you the cash. You don't have to tell anybody about it. That's the thing I worry about when it comes to mainstreaming, is the power that lobbyists have to create regulations to demonize it before it even has a chance to solve the problems of the legacy industries.
Yeah, and do you see that happening in the United States?
I see it within their power and in their best interest to flex that power. I don't see any incentive to not. I don't know. It is something that worries me, and seeing a lot of the, like I mentioned earlier, the legacy companies like Local and Shapeshift and everybody going towards mandatory KYC, it does start to seem like a tinfoil hat scenario, if you will, but like, I am a little worried that we may see a regulation pop up in the US that says you're allowed to trade this, you can invest in it and blah, 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 but businesses are not allowed to accept any cryptocurrencies. If you're caught doing it, it's like accepting foreign currency. You can't accept euros and pesos. It's against the law.
Okay, so one thing to keep in mind is that I do see I do see a lot of people lose sight of this, is that people, companies are made of people, obviously, but people, when there is something, why does everybody use the internet now? Why do all companies and governments and everyone use the internet? Because they're comprised of people and they said, hey, this is really useful. Holy crap. If something is useful and it's going to amplify our abilities, like computers, whatever, I truly believe that everyone will use it, even because, you can make the argument that, hold on a second, us using this currency, right, let's make our own currency, but us making this currency could devalue our own currency, right? So that's the risk. But what are the rewards? Ultimately, when any of these entities see the rewards, they're going to go for the rewards. And then comes a new policy, a new campaign of making sure that they have good position. Because that's what making something illegal like that is all about. It's all about industries and position, etc.
Yep.
So we've got a really good thing going for us. The fact that Dash is incredibly useful, it's instantly settled, guaranteed, or at least it's closer and closer to that. There's no national currency that is instantly settled and guaranteed to be settled. Dash is the best thing we have for that, especially with their infrastructure, their size, their liquidity. So this is incredibly useful, right? There may be some other aspects that aren't, just to be fair, but this is incredibly useful. And because it is useful, that's why people use things. So I think it's really important that we remember that it's incredibly useful. So instead of us communicating things to be worried about, we can communicate, which there's a lot, we can communicate over and over again why it's useful and why it's helpful to me or to whatever. Other people are going to listen to that.
Yep, I think that the incentive will be similar to like when you go to a local bar or a tattoo parlor or other businesses that kind of give you a discount for paying in cash. Tattoos, by the way.
I'm like, yeah, when you go to a tattoo parlor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you pay for these things in cash, they kind of, may write it off as, under the table kind of a transaction. It's a tax exempt transaction. I'll give you a discount if you pay for it in cash so I don't have to put it on the books. That incentive will go towards from cash to cryptocurrencies, and the whole power of prohibition and regulation is the ability to enforce it. So even if they did,
that's why the Chinese love crypto so much, and that's why there was a lot of that drama in China with crypto, because they love the under the table money and etc. So.
Yeah, when I learned about like their financial holiday where it's like the only time they're allowed to move a couple thousand or more dollars out of China and like sell gold and shit, I was like, wait, what? Like they actually have to wait for a holiday to move large amounts of money around? That's I can see exactly why they love this Bitcoin thing, It's better than buying a shit ton of art and trying to send that all around the world to pay for things.
Yeah. No,
It's
I agree.
money transmitting. It's the whole concept of money laundering is so weird. I know that, like, it's kind of like a weird kind of like a weird mantra or whatever. People say, like, money laundering banks invented the whole concept. Like, it's only because of their existence money laundering is or isn't a thing to begin with. And I think when it comes to cryptocurrencies, we won't even have the idea, like, money laundering isn't even a thing, right? Like, I don't know if you think of it that way or not. Like, there's no spam in the network, right? If you wanted to launder Bitcoin and move it around, you're paying a transaction fee. You're contributing to the network. It's money laundering is something that where you're moving money around, that it takes value out of the ecosystem, out of the economy, and deflates the currency's position financially. But that doesn't exist in cryptocurrencies, because no matter what, you're taking it out of supply. The supply is fixed. They can't just print more to make more. So the whole concept of money laundering is just a thing of the past. It's like the boogeyman of fiat.
Well, I mean, this comes out for a few reasons. Like the whole battle against money laundering comes out from humanity's own dishonesty, for one,
Right.
and also because people, they willingly do not want to do businesses with certain people, whether that is truly an immoral thing or not, or whether it's just they don't like them, right? So this is birthed out of censorship and out of all of us not respecting each other's will, which we all clearly have free will. And a lot of times our own free will hurts us or hurts other people. And that's not good for any of us. It hurts us ultimately. So, when it comes to money laundering and stuff, I honestly, I realize I have a very different view of looking at it, because there are regulations in place to prevent that, okay, we don't want our enemies funded. We don't want it's what we want, damn it. So laundering ultimately boils down to what someone else wants. And cryptocurrency allows people to make that decision for themselves. And when it comes to adoption, most people can't conceptualize that, because they don't have that. They don't have that in their everyday life. They don't go to a store and they're censored. Go to another store, they're censored again. Go to this store down here, they're censored.
Yep.
They don't have that problem. They have the problem of going to a bank, and the bank's like, sorry, dude, you wrote a bad check. Going to another bank, and they're like, you owe us money on that house that foreclosed during the crash of whenever that time was. So most people don't run into this problem. But what most people do run into the problem of is, how can I make my wealth and my value extend further? It's like, cryptocurrency is the way to do it. Another problem that most people have in most businesses is, how do we battle fraud? How do we get more customers? So these are really important things to focus on when it comes to adoption, because while a lot of fears are very valid, and while you have the issue of money laundering and stopping that, like, so what, man? That's an edge case. Get out of here with your edge cases. Let's talk about what's helpful for everyone, right? But I'm not saying don't listen to these people that talk about it. I'm saying that's true. That's a good point. All right. Let's get you some Bitcoin, because you can do more with it. Let's get you some Dash, because let's get you accepting Dash, because when people pay you, like, let's say you're a satellite company and you don't want to rent out equipment to people because they might steal your whatever. Like, they may give you a bad credit card. When you accept Dash, like, you get that payment, you're gonna send it out. Better business, more customers.
Yeah, I like Dash for the private instance send. The actual utility behind the master nodes on that is really fucking awesome. Like, I always thought that was a huge use case for a cryptocurrency to be optionally private, and to have that ability. I think it's like, what is it? Still like a penny. It's still like a penny to use the private instance send option in the Dash wallet. So, I mean, for businesses, that's one of the probably biggest incentives, is to be able to do B2B in an optionally private way, but peer-to-peer still have that open ledger, or as much as they would like, depending on where they want to, use those funds.
Yeah.
But
the problems that Dash is solving is very relevant problems, and the people who are involved in Dash, they come from those industries and they understand that. Evan, Ryan Taylor, etc. They understand these very ultimately. They have groups in business development in Latin America. They
Yep.
understand the problems go in there. Dash is like the cryptocurrency that every crypto person who wants to use currency sees wants, and I think it deserves way more attention.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're killing it in Venezuela right now, especially with their own
They
mobile
are.
device. What is that? The Crip or something? Chirp?
KIRP, KIRP. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to spell it, honestly. I just think it sucks.
Yeah. I saw them at Money 2020 and I met Ryan for the first time and he went nuts over the tattoo and I was like, yeah, kind of a fan, just a little bit. And he was like, dude, that's badass. And I was like, yeah, dude, let me see your Dash tattoo. He doesn't
He's
have
like
one.
unzipping his pants. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
it's
Let
like
me
he's
show you
like,
my tattoo.
I have it in a private location.
Yeah, man.
So,
Awesome.
so with when it comes to the friction, the adoption, the mainstream of cryptocurrency, I think it all comes down to crypto being a plan B, being that worst case scenario option, right? Like it is a lifeboat, and I think it's going to take the ship going down to make people realize how important having that lifeboat is. Like, you ever been on a cruise ship and you just look at the lifeboat and like, man, that's ugly, it's stupid, but if that
That's
ship
the
goes
point.
down and you have to
A
spend
bunch
a
of
week
people.
on that stupid little lifeboat, you appreciate the fuck out of its existence and all the effort and ingenuity that went behind its creation. And that's what I think it's going to come down to, like what Venezuela's going through and potentially with France. It's unfortunate, but at least now there is a plan B. They have a plan B thanks to Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies, this lifeboat for their, economic stability and their financial freedom. They don't have to submit to a monopoly of currency anymore.
Well,
And
speaking of financial freedom, isn't that what the United States was all about in the beginning? Financial freedom.
yeah, all the way up
And then
until
the
they
solution came up.
decided to
Hey,
take the gold standard away from the dollar and then
well, now you have
start.
financial freedom again.
Well, the whole financial freedom thing ended when they decided, what was it, Nixon
Yes,
or
yes.
who made gold? Who decided to write that you had to give your gold to the treasury or it was treason?
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt.
Yeah, and I don't. I
That's
stand to be corrected, but I'm
yeah,
pretty sure.
that's the moment financial freedom fucking died, right then and right there. The year prior, they went door to door and said, "How much gold do you have? Why?"
But it's
Well, in
still
case.
alive now with Dash,
Right.
Dash and Bitcoin, right? So this is like,
It's like a phoenix, right? The concept is now reborn thanks to this technology, and I'm worried that the concept, the ideology, that phoenix can be suffocated with regulations and have to be reborn all over again.
yeah,
But I don't know. I see that the amount of people that aren't in a position, like people that are privileged, that have banks, that have visas, that all this that work, they don't really appreciate the lifeboat, Bitcoin's plan B over here. But there's a majority of people that are not in that position, who are unbanked, and an even bigger population of people who are unidentified, so they don't even have the ability to go through KYC to even get a bank account. That larger group has no other alternative. They're already in a position where they have to start getting in lifeboats. So that's why we're seeing Bitcoin and Dash and other currencies be adopted in countries that are already sinking. And it's only a matter of time to a $22 trillion deficit, which is like the equivalent of a hole this big in the ship's hull of America. Like, this ship is inevitably going to sink. We just keep patching it up with really shit patches by doing bank bailouts, but we're running out of materials to fill the hole, and it's going to go down. And those people that are privileged, look, my podcast is on fire.
well, I'll tell you what. Can you still hear me? By the way, I had one guy
Yeah,
die.
man.
Well, I'll say if you go to bit.ly, one of those bit.ly links, bit.ly/moneyv2, there's some articles I wrote up, 5 articles where I just couldn't stand it anymore. And I wrote up about like future of money and, you got to understand its past and a lot of basics of money and misconceptions about money that people have. And I think you would really enjoy that bit.ly/moneyv2. I think you'd really enjoy it, and it's good information, for people who want to talk about this money, and then segue into or walk into these benefits. Like, why are people going to use it in the first place? Yeah, hey, I have banking that works just for me. Why would I use Bitcoin? Well, okay, to amplify your value.
Right.
What does that mean?
Amplify your
We have to have a
freedom.
language. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we just have to have the language to communicate this, and it'll get there. It'll get there, just like the internet got there.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, man. And things that became things without even being acknowledged on their way, like streaming and podcasting. This that was birth of the internet wasn't really a fixated focal point of any mainstream, right? It just became mainstream overnight one day. But the hardship was there. People fought it. It was early adopters that led the way for it, but it was inevitably unstoppable. We didn't even need to focus on it. And the fact that we have so much, like, I believe in like group manifestation, like group conscious and the ability to like bring to fruition. We have so many people believing in this that it there's more belief in cryptocurrency than in fiat at the moment. And the fact that fiat thrives on belief and we don't need that for cryptocurrencies, it's just like that bonus value that it gets. It's inevitable. But let people kind of know on the wrap up here, like, how's wallofcoins.com helping people decrease friction, helping adoption, and helping mainstreaming this entire industry?
I'll give you three ways. One is directly through wallets. If you are a wallet provider, you need to give your users easy access to crypto. And Wall of Coins, we have an API, we have a web widget that you can use. This will give you a four-step process for your users to get crypto within 15 minutes. Four-step process within 15 minutes. This is very important for adoption, but as well as for the wallet company. Current solutions like let's say a Bitcoin wallet with Simplex or with CDX.io. The user goes through many steps, and this is only going to help people who have credit cards and bank cards. Another thing Wall of Coins does is we allow people to pay. We address 99% of the payment market. What is that? Your payment market is about 33 to 40% people who are unbanked, or they're users of all ages, such as in the gaming industry. You have less than 0.5% of the payments. Whoops.
There you go. That sounds better.
Right. You have less than 0.5% with people who are.
I lost you. There we go. There we go. First world problems when your headphones die.
Wait a second. All right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Illuminati stuff. No, I'm kidding. But so you have less than 0.5% of people who are even going to pay in crypto in the first place. So for example, let's say you have Jack's wallet, right? And you're only catering to get people into crypto with crypto itself. That's not going to work out. And sure, you have half of your payment world, they have access to bank stuff. So we address 99% of the population that's going to see your app and is going to see the ability to get crypto through there. That's important to adoption, is giving people more choices, having it be easy, 4 steps to get crypto, to put in a crypto order and get that. Don't send them to, and this is what all the wallets do today practically. They send them to other websites to sign up. Like, that confuses the user. People are not as smart as the people who are well, they're smart, but people don't have the experience of running a company. They don't have the experience of even working in crypto in the first place. You got to make this super easy. And this is what Wall of Coins focuses on. We've been sharply focused on this over the years. So not only do we sell through wallofcoins.com, we allow liquidity providers to sell through wallofcoins.com, people who just have crypto to sell through wallofcoins.com, and then the buyers are coming to you, the liquidity provider or the seller, they're coming to you through our website and through any wallet that has us integrated.
That's pretty powerful, man. So what's the roadmap like, though? Like, as we move more into this mainstreaming into the industry, I'm just curious, where do you see wallofcoins.com moving forward? Any evolutions, any adaptations of anything moving forward? Do you have a roadmap for 2019?
Yeah. Well, allow me to tell you what we're very interested in at the moment. We're very interested in finding licensee partners of other territories
to work with us to give this easy experience to users. We're looking for wallets who want to help their users get crypto. Excuse me. We're looking for businesses that want to accept cash at a distance and it be settled with them with crypto. That's the big focus what we're looking for. So if anybody is that sort of company, or if you're a liquidity provider, let's say you're selling on local Bitcoins and you just love talking with people all day and scammers trying to scam you all day, keep doing that. But if you're sick of it and you just want to focus on getting the crypto available and just focus on your payment options, your banking, your merchant solutions, we'll handle everything.
Well, that makes it easy. I mean, guys, do me a favor, check out wallofcoins.com and drop a comment in the comment section below and just let me know your thoughts, your opinion on the website, and your experience if you ever used wallofcoins.com. Drop it in the comments and let's start this conversation more open source. This was between Rob and I, but we want to open that conversation now to you in the comments section. Let us know what your thoughts are on cryptocurrency's frictions, the adoption and the mainstreaming of this industry moving forward through 2019 into 2020. I know I'm looking forward to the halvening around this time next year. So yeah, guys, let's open up that conversation. Drop some comments. Rob, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you on the internet, man? You on Twitter? You on LinkedIn? You still have MySpace? Where you at?
MySpace? No, twitter.com/Robert Janito. I spent a lot of time there. Telegram, Robert Janito.
So no crypto Robert or blockchain Janito.
No, I'm very much aligned with the early like white paper and the early morals and values of crypto. I'm super transparent. I'll give you my full name. You want my social 15784 blah blah blah. I don't care.
I remember that reminds me of the commercial of the guy who used to have his social on the billboards and stuff. I was like, that's pretty ballsy. But I mean, at this point, with Equifax's hack, your social is out there just as easily as your credit card information is. The only thing I won't be able to find on the deep web is your private keys. Yeah. And for that, we can thank Satoshi. All right, Rob, I'll let you get going, bro. I didn't mean to kidnap you for so long on the day, but I appreciate you taking your time to come on and teach us and tell us a little bit about what Wall of Coins is doing and talk about, the frictions, adoption, and the mainstreaming of cryptocurrencies. Everybody go ahead again and visit wallofcoins.com. Don't forget to pound the thumbs up button. Share this on social media. Drop a subscribe if you're on YouTube. And don't forget to comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on wallofcoins.com and have a day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.